I'm Mira Rubin, here with you on Enlightened World Network, and today's topic is the intelligent universe. All around us, there's intelligence that's getting proven more frequently, more robustly through science, and validating what so many of us have already known, that there is a greater intelligence to the universe. And as we recognize that, and we recognize our shared awareness, so to speak, it deepens our connection and our interconnectedness and our presence to that. And so that's what today's conversation is going to be. It's going to be fun. And good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you joining us this morning. Welcome. Welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Before we get started, let's just take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, the intelligent universe. So much. I grew up with a father who considered himself a scientist, or at least he was a pretty, I would say, religious devotee of science, pretty much as a religion, saying, like there's a sort of a belief in science, in the scientific method, that things need to be replicable to be true. And it's interesting that now science is embarking into arenas that were quite taboo in so many ways. This conversation, by the way, is coming from my reading a book called The Light Eaters, which I can't recommend highly enough. It's just looking, the author is let me just give me a second here, is Zoe Schlanger, and it is a paradigm changing book. It is a life changing book because she goes into great depth about plants and their adaptive properties and their capabilities to sense. And I've spoken about this already, but it's just so powerful that I need to speak about it more. Their powers to sense light and sound and proximity, and to recognize whether they're in proximity to kin, and then different behaviors based on that proximity, and different behaviors based on other plants that they are planted with, and how adaptive they are to different conditions, and things, responses to things that defy the notion that that they're inanimate, or that they don't possess some kind of intelligence. Now, our words are so limited, right? Because when we think of intelligence, we think of brains. And I think even in human terms, we're recognizing that we have intelligences that don't reside in the brain per se. We talk about the brain in the gut and the brain in the heart. And um, we have had such a deep arrogance around our place in the universe and our intelligence as being at the top of the food chain, sort of thing. And with that arrogance, we have not only ignored but denied the intelligence of other creatures, other forms on the planet and in the universe. And I find this book is truly life altering, if you allow it to be. As are so many that are talking about the intelligence of nature, and um, what comes into the conversation, um, not just through this book, but through so many others, is the animate universe, like this massive organism of life and form, life and form. And when, at least for me, the phenomena as a result of this, the phenomenon is a deeper reverence, a deeper connection, a deeper relationship with the world, and the beingness of the world, and recognizing that um, we're part of something so much greater. And as human beings, we're so loud that for the most part, our lives are about human beings. We concern ourselves with our economies, our commerce, our politics, our egos, our beliefs, our constructs. And I think what may be happening, I hope what may be happening, is that we are starting to recognize more and more that we are part of a greater universe. Of course, indigenous people have known this forever, and it's just dawning on us, the rest of us, little by little by little. And it's kind of crazy to me. It's always been kind of crazy to me that we have this sort of cultural rule that it's not true unless science can prove it so. And I guess we're fortunate to see that science is proving more and more of it, so that that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding can percolate more into the conversation of the general culture. So um, I as we're understanding more about plants and animal intelligence and um, the microbiome and bacteria and the complexity of the soil and the complexity of systems, we're we're hopefully as a collective moving away from this notion of the mechanistic universe where it's just a machine, a mindless machine, and that we can take any part, we can find a failing with a part and address that as a curative measure, when in fact it's sort of, in many cases, creating more damage to be playing the fix it whack-a-mole kind of process rather than looking at an entire system and the complexity of it. I guess there's a drive to simplify things, to nurture the illusion of control that makes us feel superior and safe. However, it is an illusion, and we have um, this illusion of understanding that allows us to then dismiss so many consequences of our actions, to not even recognize the consequences of our actions. So I recently went to New York and attended an event called Transformative, which was a really profound collection of people doing things in the world to make a difference and to address a lot of whack-a-mole solutions, but some more global. And I met a woman who has an organization called Earth, AERTH, which is in the process of mapping or creating a digital twin sort of idea. That's the goal of the world and the ecosystems of the world, so that we can start to recognize uh, and interact with the complexities of all these ecosystems that are part of this global system, which is a really audacious project, right? Like, to imagine that we can possibly accomplish such a thing. But steps toward that allow us greater insight into the interconnectedness and interrelationships on the planet. And when her name is Adina Popescu, when she did her presentation, she talked about how some people believed that it was a great idea to put solar panels all over the Sahara Desert to generate energy. And through the modeling that they had already accomplished, which is really nominal when you look at the scope of this endeavor. It's rather a bold imagining, to be imagining mapping the ecosystems of the planet. Right now they're starting with the oceans and gathering data, big data from all these different organizations around the planet. But what they discovered was that if this project had gone forward, which might on the surface seem like a great idea, it would have destroyed the rainforest. And so there's a much deeper intelligence than we possess that nature has, when we recognize that nature has been evolving for billions of years, and that we are just a very recent blip on the map with tremendous arrogance and enough intelligence to be dangerous. And we've used it too, right? So what I find so magnificent in more literature that is coming to my attention is that there is more and more science that is validating eons of indigenous wisdom to say we are all relatives. We are related. And as part in part of the story that Zoe is relaying in this marvelous book, The Light Eaters, she talks about how indigenous folks regard animals and plants and trees as persons. And we're seeing more and more litigation on behalf of nature and the rights of nature and the personhood of nature, of waterways, um, of rice, for instance, where she was telling a story of a pipeline that was challenged in the courts based on the rice that requires clean water in order to grow, and that rice is the lifeblood, a primary food source for a particular indigenous group. And the suit was on behalf of the rice. And we're seeing rights of nature, we're seeing rivers, rights being ascribed to rivers, to mountains, to animals, not just to humans. And the interesting parallels that she draws in the book, which is, it's pretty horrifying to realize that this was a very recent practice and actually still happens, the practice of vivisection, where live dogs would be dissected anesthetized, because they believed that dogs didn't feel pain. I remember actually when I was growing up, there were schools of thought that believed that babies didn't experience pain. And of course, of course. We, in our ignorance, believe that plants don't sense pain, or maybe that fish don't sense pain, experience pain. And there's all kinds of science now regarding plants that is discussed in this book that talks about how the whole plant physiology shifts when there's an injury, that there's a flood of electrical and chemical responses. And why wouldn't there be? Why wouldn't there be? Why would we imagine that we could pluck the wings from an insect without it having a traumatic response? How could we imagine that certain people feel less, experience less than we do? And so the question becomes, how does this shift of awareness, this recognition of intelligence throughout our universe, this teeming intelligence all around us, in plants, most likely in minerals as well. If you know, minerals have certain structures and grow in certain conditions. I haven't heard anybody talking about intelligence in minerals yet, but I think it's on its way. When we recognize that we're in a living system and that we are just one part of a system that is alive and communicating between species, between forms, that everything is interacting with everything else. How does that shift our consciousness? How does that shift the way that we be? We can hope that what it builds is a reverence. What it builds is a respect and an appreciation and a regard. We can only hope that that connection allows us to be more mindful in our relations with all life around us, that we cultivate a deeper appreciation and presence and well, reverence, I think, is the right word, or certainly one of them. That when we eat, and this is a practice, it's a practice, when we eat even plants, that we receive the life, that we respect the life, that we respect the intelligence. I even the intelligence of water, which we there are peripheral people that are exploring that and documenting that. And when we can recognize that water has its own intelligence, it's a liquid crystal. There's a wonderful, beautiful book by Veda Austin called The Secret Intelligence of Water. And it shows, she's done photographs of water on a macro scale, not a microscopic scale, where she's, for instance, put a dish of water on top of a photograph for a matter of minutes and then flash freezes it. And the water crystallizes in patterns reminiscent, related to the photograph or the word, the image that it had been in proximity to. Mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. Because we have not been raised to recognize these other intelligences. In fact, it was so schooled out of me growing up. You know, we don't want to don't anthropomorphize, even about animals. But anybody who's ever had a pet knows, scientifically proven or not, knows that animals feel happiness and unhappiness, that they get excited, that they dream, that they experience pain, that they experience joy, that they experience anxiety, that they have a rich life, that they think. It's so vividly present and clear. It's so completely undeniable. And yet culturally, we're still so far behind the understanding that life is all around us. Wonder, vitality, magic, if we just choose to connect. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it's such a delight and a privilege to have the opportunity to muse about the nature of being and being human. So until next time, so much love to you.